And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at Alone, which was one of my most anticipated games from Essen 2018. And Alone, I was pretty excited about this game because what it is one player is alone, which, by the way, is very scary, right? To be alone in this dark corridor, think aliens. The other players, 3 of them, are the dungeon masters. It's 3 dungeon masters to 1 hero. They are controlling all the bad guys and stuff, and the person who's alone has to figure out and accomplish their mission and survive. That's fascinating. It's kind of like a dungeon crawl, but with a lot of wrenches thrown into it. It's done by Horrible Games. I tend to like a lot of their stuff. Let's take a closer look. There are a ton of rules in Alone, so please do not use this video as a way to learn how to play the game. I just want to give you an idea of how the game is played. The bad guy players are going to have the dungeon map. This is 2 floors. You'll have stairs that go from one to another, and this will show them exactly, they know where everything is. They know what rooms are in each location. There are multiple sides of the board that they can have. They keep track of where the hero is. They have these danger symbols if they have monsters that the hero doesn't know about. They know everything about this. This is going to be hid behind a big shield that gives them all the different things that you can do in the course of this game, which once again you can see there's no way I'm going to be able to talk about all this because there is a ton of this. The hero player is going to get a final mission that they have to do. There's a pile of different final missions that you might get. You're going to get a final mission and then 2 starting missions, a green and a blue one, and you put them kind of here on your board to show what rooms you need to go to accomplish that. Once you accomplish one of these missions, you can then go for your final one, kill them all. The player board is going to have a lot of other information. You're going to have your character card, which gives you a special ability that you'll have over the course of the game. You have a deck of item cards that you might find or use as the game goes by. You're keeping track of your health and also your self-control, insanity basically. You have adrenaline. You have tokens here that you'll be using to take different actions. You have a spot here to keep track of the board. Here's where the bad guys are going to be playing cards on you that are going to be messing you up. This talks a little bit about the bad guys that you're fighting. There's a lot of information for the player to keep track with. And there's even more than that because this tells you how you get experience. This tells you how you fight each of the different monsters in the game. This tells you what difficulty level you can play the game on, the different actions that you can take as a player, how to use adrenaline. There is a ton of information. So the actual game is going to be the hero moving around a board. They don't know what the board looks like. The bad guys do. And they're going to be moving around the board, and the bad guys are going to be, as they move, adding more pieces or maybe saying, hey, here's an enemy that shows up that you have to fight, whatever might happen over the course. The bad guys never actually take turns. Instead, they're going to have decks of cards that they're going to pick at the beginning of the game, and these decks of cards will be used to play negatively. So choose a revealed creature, teleport this creature to the closest unrevealed sector, or move a creature up to 2 sectors, or remove a creature from the map and then spawn another creature. Or the hero loses an additional health. You play that when the hero loses health. So the players have to agree when to play the cards. There'll be different decks of cards. If you're playing with 3 bad guys, each of the bad guys has 1 deck of cards, and the guy in the middle has access to both decks of cards when playing the different cards and so on. So the hero is going to be taking different actions. Maybe they can move. Maybe they can block doors. There's going to be doors that are going to be showing up over the course of the game. The rooms are also going to be, sometimes they're going to be lit or not lit, which is going to change how you fight the different monsters. They can explore. They're going to fight. Sometimes you're going to fight to fight. You're simply going to be rolling dice to attack a creature. You might try to figure out where you are on the board, scavenge where you draw item cards, or interact to repair things and turn lights on or off. If you get to stairs, you might find stairs somewhere. You can use those to go up to another flight. And, eventually usually you're trying to get to a specific room and do something in that room to accomplish your mission, and then go on from there to get to the final one. You'll have there's rules about line of sight, what you can see, and the bad guys are going to be keeping control of all that. You have to just completely trust them that they're going to tell you what to do. As you come across the various monsters that will show up over the course of the game, you're going to have to fight these monsters. They're going to be attacking you. You'll be attacking them. When you roll the dice, some of the symbols, like this one here, will hit the symbol if there's light. They're also going to be attacking you, doing life damage and self-control damage. So if one of the tracks that you have reaches 0, and you take damage of that kind, you lower the other tracks instead. And if both tracks get to 0, then the hero player loses the game. The hero player can, basically kill creatures to get experience. And like I said, the different creatures are going to have various hit points and different special effects. And this is based on whether it is light or dark. You'll notice their stats are going to be changed, or also how hard the game is. Here, this is the nightmare mode. And then this is the mode that you have when you're playing normally, and how far they move, and all sorts of different stats. And so the player is going to have to fight monsters, but sometimes they're just going to hear sound, and the bad guy player might be putting tokens on the board to show you, hey, you heard sound coming from that end. Is that a monster running towards you or not? And so the good guy is going to be trying to figure out where on the map they are and where the stuff is. The bad guy is just going to be consistently playing cards and doing things to stop them. So that's pretty much how the game works. I don't want to get too much more into it than that. The rule book, so just so you know how the game comes, there are 4 different rule books that come with this game. There is an intro rule book, which explains how to set up for the bad guys, how to set up for the good guys, and a little bit of an overview. Then the hero reads their own rule book, which tells them all the different things that they're going to do, all the actions they can take. The evil players get their own rule book, which they're going to go through. It tells them all the stuff that they can do over the course of the game. And then there's a big scenario booklet here where it will give you very specific scenarios with kind of as background story things that they're going to do over the course of the game. You can totally ignore this. You don't need to do this. You can just play one-off missions if you want to. The game has its own little plastic inserts with it. You'll be able to put the miniatures in them if you want to keep them. The miniatures are fine. I mean, you can see the detail in them is pretty well done. And I really like these miniatures, especially this is just really cool. I did feel like the miniatures for the aliens, and again, they're really well done. Let's see, you can see here piles of stuff, but I felt like they were a little uninspired. Like, really? How many times am I going to see this same kind of alien done? Maybe when they're painted, they look cool. I just felt like, yes, it's another, it's basically aliens, I guess. Maybe it's the theming of the game. Anyhow, the tiles themselves are fine. They have that, they sure give you that when they're dark, they give you that feeling of dread. When they're lit, it's a little bit better, but it definitely brings it across. Not a fan of the dice at all. I found the dice were to be okay. Just different lines on them. There are no colors or anything. I don't know. I felt like they could have done more with the dice. The cards are good quality, and I do like that they have a lot of stuff on them. I wish there was maybe a little bit more artwork on the cards. These boards are neat, that the players have. And the shield is big, but not big enough for 3 players. I will say that. If you're going to have a shield, 3 players barely fit through it. But, overall, the components are fine. Well, here's the deal. Not a huge fan of the game. I don't hate it either, but I do have one major problem with it. This game was billed as a 3 versus 1 game. 3 dungeon masters, 1 hero. So we'll get into the hero versus player in a second, but the fact is the 3 dungeon master thing is not interesting at all. If you're going to play this game to its best thing, it's 1v1. Really. When you are a dungeon master player in this game, or one of the evil players, you are playing 1/3 of a side that sets up for the other person, reacts. If you want to do something, you're like, hey guys, can you mind if I play this card? Okay, can I play this card? Thanks, I want to play a card. All right, great. You are playing 1/3 of 1/2 of the game, 1/6 of the game. That is not fun. I don't get that at all. It made it sound good in theory, but in practice I wasn't impressed with it. You spend a good chunk of the game, if you're playing 3-on-1, you spend a good chunk watching everyone else play. So, because the bad guy, the evil guy, is basically just reacting to what the good guy does. And you only react some of the time. Even if you're playing 1 versus 1, the hero player is infinitely more fun and interesting, in my opinion. Because the evil player, you're just kind of setting things up, and you're picking what bad things. I mean, you're playing the role of a dungeon master. That's fine. I don't mind that. If you're going to play 2 players, 1 person can be the dungeon master. So that's fine. Usually in a dungeon crawl, there's 1 dungeon master. And that person sacrifices a little bit of their fun to set things up for the other players to play. Here you have 3 dungeon masters who are sacrificing some of their fun for 1 person to have an entertaining time. I don't know if I like that. And even with 1 versus 1, you are sacrificing a little bit of your fun for the other person to have a good time. I just think that the hero has the more interesting choices, and for them it's a super tense experience. For the bad guy, it's more clinical. You're like, they're going over there. We'll move these monsters this way. You got interesting strategic choices. But for the hero, oh my word, it is so claustrophobic. If you're claustrophobic at all, you probably shouldn't play this game because it's going to give you that feel. You hear noises. Oh, what's happening next? Go around the corner. So I find the 1 versus 1 game okay. That's why I'm giving this a final rating of 6. I'm not saying the game is bad. It's interesting and entertaining. But I don't know, other than that claustrophobic feel, that there's a lot of other things. There's way too many rules in this game. I want to play these games and be able to snip around and do things. And I know, as soon as I say this, people are going to come in and say, oh, once you play the game, 6, 7 times, you'll get all this stuff down. The fact that there was 3 different rule books, I'm not a fan of that at all. Where it's like, you guys read this rule book and you read this rule book and I'll read this and I say, the bad guy can do this. I'm like, well, what exactly can you do? Just put it all in 1 rule book. Come on, it's hope. I just hate having to compare rule books. What are you saying? I say this. Okay, this. That was such a pain. Not to mention, then there was another rule book that was the setup, and now we split into 2 rule books. And also, as a side, the campaign was, I didn't play through the campaign, but I read through it, and wow, it was not very interesting writing. For a campaign, you need that top of the line stellar writing. I don't think that was there. But back to the game. There's just a lot of these fiddly rules. The game just felt fiddly. Like, okay, this happens when it's light, this happens when it's not, this monster does this. I had a hard time differentiating between the monsters, unlucky die roll, the good guy can lose really quickly. He decides to go the right way. You could also play almost themeless and sit there and go, okay, well, I know the boards that can be in this configuration. If I'm here, I moved here, I'm going to use logic to go, and this must be the board I'm on. I'm not sure I'm a fan of that either. So, yeah, I'm being a little bit more negative than not on this one. Part of that is because I had such high hopes for it. Especially, I thought the 3 versus 1 thing sounded fascinating, and that's the weakest part of the game. But if I take the 1 versus 1 aspect of it, where, ooh, it's dark, that's good. They did a good job at emulating that. It's just that I don't know that I want to play a game that gives all that fun and claustrophobia to that one person, and the other player is kind of just facilitating it. It's kind of an asymmetrical game, but there's a lot going on, and at the end of the day, it's kind of moving around, and then sometimes luck determines it, and it doesn't feel like the strategy was really there as strongly. I don't know. I think this one's going to be forgettable as after a couple, because there's a lot of people who like dungeon crawls. I went and read the comments. I'm curious what other people think about this game, and there's some people who are like in adoration. They love it. They thought the theme was very immersive. If the theme doesn't mean anything, you cannot play this game. You have to like the theme to enjoy this. You get in there and you see what happens. But it was a little too fiddly for me. A lot fiddly, actually. The idea of hiding from the person is awesome, but not as awesome for the dungeon master. And at the end of the day, I don't know. I'm not feeling a desire to go back and play more of it. So, I don't know. Some of y'all might like it. For me, I'll be alone in my opinion. It's okay. Dice Tower Judgment, 1 versus 1 only, and best for the hero.